So you started, built, grew, and sold one of the largest HVAC companies in the Metroplex.
Yes.
Did you think in high school that's what you would do when you grew up?
Absolutely not. I had no idea I'd be in the trades. I've always been in service. I've always been service oriented, and but I never had any idea it would go to what it was.
Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. Now, you say you've always been service-oriented. I used to be a waiter and a bartender and all those fun things. How did you get into service?
I've had a job. I worked full-time since I was 14, and I worked at a nursing home, and I helped go get the people and bring them down, and I set out their drinks and, made sure that they were taken care of. And I took pride in that. And then I've worked fast food. I've been a waitress. I've been the front door Kmart greeter. I've had a lot of jobs.
So you know all about the blue light special.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I love that. So, and later it wasn't just HVAC, y'all expanded.
Yeah, as time went on, as a air conditioning company, you need plumbers, you need electricians, and when you're out there, you're having to hire other companies to come do part of the work. Mm-hmm. And when we would guarantee great service, you can't control the quality if you're not the one doing it. Yep. And so it was just like a natural thing to, hey, let's start plumbing. That way we can control when they showed up, they were on time, they cleaned up, they did a good job, and that's just that's part of it.
So let's go back to deciding to start an HVAC company. What's the decision that makes you say, okay, now's the time?
We had moved to Dallas, and we were doing appliance service for quite a while. And honestly, I'll say, my ex at the time went to a customer's house, and he was there to look at a dishwasher, and the AC guy showed up, and they were not happy to see a dishwasher guy, but they were thrilled to see the AC guy because they were hot. And it was like, that's what we need to be doing. And so we started working on that at that time. And that was probably back in the 90s, 96 maybe, 97, I think is when we started air conditioning. And just took off from there. We really loved it.
So he's an appliance repairman. Y'all have got a company at the time doing it?
Yes.
How did you learn HVAC?
Hire a contractor, take classes, go to school. I mean, you just kind of learn the industry by doing it. Mm-hmm. You hire the right people, put the right people around you is the biggest thing, and try to learn from the right people.
So when y'all started the HVAC company, were you involved with it then?
Absolutely.
And what all did you do? Because I started a plumbing company and had my wife at the time jump in and help me after I started, and she just looked at what I was doing. She said, "You need help."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I do.
At the time, he was still in the field, so he was running service calls and managing, the guys in the field. He was tech support basically, but for all the guys in the field. And I ran the office. I mean, when we started small, there wasn't as many people, but I would do payroll and fix the garage door. I mean, when you have a business, you got to do everything. It's like, hey, the toilet's not working. Can you go look at it and look at the garage door? But hey, this guy needs his payroll done. So it was a gamut of everything. Marketing. We were so busy we didn't take classes. They were all out there. I wish we joined contractor groups ahead of time because we worked ourselves crazy, but pretty much did everything. I mean, I've hired people, not knowing what they know, but I knew they knew what they knew. Put good people, hire the best people.
Now, did you even know about contractor groups or best practice groups back then?
People would call us, but sorry, I'm too busy for that. And the hindsight, I would tell anyone, join a contractor group. I mean, I know we're going to talk about those things, but join something. You don't got to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. It's out there. But I love the thrill of it. It's a great industry.
Okay. Knowing what you know now, what would you do different in the beginning?
I would absolutely join a best practices contractor group. We learned we paid they call it the stupid tax, right? Where don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And you learn I've learned a lot of lessons of what not to do, where not to advertise, where not to waste your money. I wish I would have known all the best practices ahead of time so we could have structured it that way. We were actually doing a lot of great things. we just didn't have an operations for it, or we didn't have it structured that way. And I would go back and make sure all those things were set up and make sure that I knew my numbers. We didn't even know our numbers. We had no clue. We had someone come in one time and said, "You guys have a marketing Ferrari driving down a dirt road. You don't know what you don't know, and you guys need to figure your stuff out."
So, and I love you say that, because I'm looking at building a best practice group. I had somebody sit in that same chair about 5 weeks ago and tell me, look, they're still teaching the same things they taught in 1990. What have you learned in best practice groups that you look back at now and thought, yeah, they need to fix that, they need to update that?
Absolutely. So when we first started out, then, hey, great, this is all new to us, right? We were probably about an $8 million a year company.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid.
8 million, yeah, drinking the Kool-Aid, and but it was information we needed, and we put some structures in place. We went to a couple of classes. Here's 100 things you need to do. Pick the top and go down. And the thing I'll say is, you can go to a class, but you have to do it. And if you don't do the things that you learn, then, but we were drowning. We were literally going to be bankrupt, divorced, whatever, a long time ago.
And doing $8 million a year. Most people out there listening right now think, shit, if I ever get to $8 million a year, life is good.
Yeah, we had $8 million, but we were doing no managers. Like, he managed all of this, and he got the outside, I got the inside. Here's all of it. And it was extremely stressful. It was 18-hour days. There was no vacations. It was a constant battle. And there's a lot of things that we learned that made our lives a whole lot easier just by going to a success group. As time went on, we outgrew the success groups. Some of them were saying, how to get to be 100 million. Well, we were their largest person. There was no one that had been to 100 million to tell us how us to go from 70 to 100.
And they can't tell you because they've never coached anybody to it.
They've never done it.
You bet.
And so, we took a piece of this, a piece of that, a piece of that. I mean, one thing that success groups are also great for is there's extra funds. There's, buy downs and kickbacks and money for being a part of it that pays for itself completely. But there has to be something in a success group that is, what are specific problems that are happening today? Because our technology has changed so much. The technology that's available, the softwares that are available, the streamlining, and is it good or is it bad? Because, you lose that personal touch versus everything's automated. So it just needs to advance. We need some advancement. The core of customer service and the core of knowing your numbers is never going to change. Those things are constants. You bet. But you can't just keep pretending it's 1990.
Some people are, though.
Oh, I know it. I see it in it.
So, and like you said, they'd give you a list of 100 things. These are the things you need to do. You pick what you need and do it. And that was part of my problem. It's like, wait, y'all coach people, you tell me what I need. If I already knew what I needed, I'd already be doing it. What are the first 2 or 3 things most companies need to look at and say, we're not doing this, and this is going to be a big deal. I agree with your numbers. Know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, there's a guy named Clarence Avant, the godfather of Motown. He says at the end of the day, know your numbers, period. No matter what you do, know your numbers. And I love that. And that has stuck with me since I saw his special. But when you're a young plumbing company, and I'm going to say young, anywhere from $500,000 to $5 million.
Right.
You were at 8. We didn't know anything. Okay. What are the first things other than know your numbers? Because I think everybody has to learn that from the beginning. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know if you're making money. You don't know if you're losing money. I knew I was losing money because I was refinancing my house like every 2 or 3 years. Here we go.
Yes. Yeah, I did it yearly.
Throw more money at it. You bet.
Refinance the house, pay payroll in the winter.
Yeah.
Every year.
Well, luckily we were a plumbing company, so payroll was covered all year long.
Yeah. But
I remember the first time payroll wasn't. I was at, where was I? I was at a conference. I was at a conference. And Julie calls, and my phone's blowing up, and I just keep hitting the button. Stop. I'm at a conference. And I thought, man, the plumbing company's doing great, and this is what I came here to make happen. I'll get outside, and it's her, and she says, we're not going to be in business when you get back.
Yeah. I
said, well, look, I'll come home now. She said, no, you're already there. You already spent the money. Have fun.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, gee, thanks. That'll make you say, okay, wait, what do I have to do? But literally, she says, look, we don't even have enough money to make payroll Friday. I said, there's a 5-gallon bottle in the corner of the room, half full of coins. Carry it down to the bank and cash it in. No, this was even before that. This was even before. First, it was the only time I couldn't make payroll, and it was before that. She called me, and I think I was out on the job. And I said, look, go cash that in. There's enough money there to cover payroll. I had one or two guys.
Yeah.
And she did. We never had that problem again. But then at the conference, the phone's not ringing, and she says, look, we're done. And I'm like, look, there's lots of people owe us money. Call the top 10. Tell them, look, I've got to collect something.
Yep.
Or I'm going to call my attorney. We're coming after you. We're going to do what we got to do. We made payroll. Got it covered. Money came in.
It's stressful.
It's tough. It is. But we
is
didn't know our
stressful.
numbers. We had no idea.
And it's very, very stressful when you don't.
So back to that list of 100 things. You've gone through this. And if you were coaching a young couple sitting down in front of you saying, oh my God, we're starting a company and we're excited. And you're like, oh my God, you have no idea what's ahead for you. What are the first two things you tell them to do?
I mean, when we went through our list, there were things that the teacher, it was a specific class. It really wasn't a success group, but it was a guy that trained.
You bet.
And there were things we knew we needed to do that were important. And one was like, we're going to advertise that we have a drug-free environment. You can trust who we send to your home. Well, how do you back that up? So let's do drug testing. And we were really worried we were going to lose
half your people.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Didn't lose anybody. I was surprised. But it's like, here, you got to stand behind what you say. Your word is everything. Your word to your customers and your word to your employees and your word to your vendors. I mean, it matters. It's gold.
It is.
And if you don't have that, number one, then no one trusts you. No one's going to trust you in the home. So you have to make sure you back up the things that you say. Don't overpromise what you can't deliver. I see that a lot in marketing. People promise things like, how can they do that? Promise something less. You can't give a lifetime warranty if you've been open for 5 months.
Promise less and over deliver. And then they're like, oh my God, I love you.
Yeah.
You didn't say you were going to clean the bathroom when you were done.
Yeah.
Well, we do that on every job we're on.
I mean, just things like making sure that everyone's doing it the same way. I had someone say, hey, we're not Sears. Like, no, we're not Sears. But McDonald's, if you go to this McDonald's or that McDonald's, a Big Mac is a Big Mac. And every guy that goes to the house needs to do the same thing, the same way. So customers learn the brand and they learn the product. So you have to have those procedures put in place. You have to hold firm with it. Because, these are people in the trades. There are people everywhere like this, but you have to get them to want to conform. You have to get them to see the bigger picture. Track your trucks, track your expenses. There's, you step over dollars, pennies stuff chase dollars, and
Absolutely.
there's a penny saved, is a penny saved. So you got to really look at that. Track where all the money is actually going, because so many times people don't. They really don't. They don't. And then you got to work with your vendors. A lot of people don't realize, and we didn't know at the time, that vendors have these separate funds and they have advertising money and they have extra things that they can do instead of like, well, here's our price, take it or leave it. And you gotta learn the ins and outs of this, of actually it's the working, I don't say working the system, but being the one that understands it. You have to really understand the behind the scenes of what goes into the industry. Aside from, obviously training for your staff, making sure everyone has the top equipment. I mean, if they need a tool, it's going to save them 3 hours, and they do it all the time. Why not buy the tools?
Absolutely.
I'm a firm believer in all kinds of tools. You can't just go out and go, well, I can wing it. So like we would say, well, if you don't have these tools, well, you can't do this type of job because I'm not going to waste. I'll send you to something else. You just have to make sure the person showing up, it's not fair to the customer to waste the customer's time to show up for a job that needs a ladder and you don't have ladders on your truck. There's just little things that are just super important that goes along with your credibility of growing a business and getting repeat business, because you've got to look at, every customer's not a target today, but you're planting seeds.
Right.
Today I'm going to do a great service because at some point they're going to need me for that big job, and you got to make sure you have the right tech in the right job, the right plumber in the right house. If a guy's going to go there, you can't have a guy that's going to go try and sell a whole new whole new everything. 6 months old. Repipe a whole house and it's not that old.
Yeah.
But they're, that's what they do. They got to put the right guy in the right position. And that really creates success for the company. It's success for the employee, but the best thing is the best for the customer. And doing what's best for the customer all the time, you'll win.
I love that. And as I'm doing research, getting ready to build a best practice group, the biggest thing I find, the biggest complaint about companies going through them are like, all they try to do is get you to hardcore sell.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do. But you've got to do what's best for the customer. So I love hearing you say that, because to me, at the end of the day, that's the biggest thing. Your customer. If you do your customer wrong, everybody in the world is going to find out. If you do your customer right, a few people are going to find out. But that word will spread.
Yes. Yes. You know, one of the biggest things is like homeowners, you know, it depends on how long the homeowner is going to be in the house. It depends on their financial situation. You have to give people options. Educate, explain what's out there, explain what happens if you do this today, explain what happens if you wait. You know, like, but just give them options. Sometimes it is better to do something now because in the long run, they're saving money and they're going to be there for a long time. But sometimes they don't have it. So you just have to give options. You can't be a high pressure. You got to let the customer make the ultimate decision.
So take just a second. Tell everybody who you are and what you do. What you've done and what you do.
You know,
or do you even know what you do anymore?
You know what? It's a little crazy.
Okay.
I've done so many different things, but mostly, you know, my name is Sherry Green. With my ex-husband and I, you know, we co-founded A Number One Air, and ran it for 35 years. We did have a divorce. The company sold, and I wish the best. You know, it's my legacy. I wish the best for the new owners, and I still have tons of great employees that I trained and brought up and whatever, still working there. So I'm happy for that. But I've learned so much, you know, about the industries, and you know, marketing is my thing. I love, you know, quality control. I mean, quality control and marketing is like, and no one likes quality control. No one wants to.
I used to do quality control.
No one
for
wants
one of
to
the
be
biggest companies.
no one wants to be the person that gets all the negative calls. But
yeah.
I have pride in like taking care of those customers and making sure no one's missed. If someone's not happy, you know, you got to make sure they're there. So I still love that. I mean, I'm looking for my next thing. I'm not quite sure. Taking a little bit of time off, just you know, enjoying. This is my first real summer, you know, of not really being in the industry.
Good for you.
Yeah,
that's nice.
But you know, I'm getting a little bored.
I would too. I would too. This video is sponsored by High Level. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. And you said you ran it for 35 years, so what, you're 45 now? I mean,
yeah, I started when I was 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. Way to go. So, not just HVAC. You started at HVAC.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to expand into other niches?
I'm a little crazy, but we bought a new building in 2013, and we had this opportunity with people that were actually doing work at our office, and we had an electrician, and we had a security and a mechanical person, and we actually started plumbing, security, mechanical, plumbing, security, mechanical, and electrical, like all in the same month, which.
Just hire somebody and let's go.
We bought, you know, buy this person out, but they're going to come work for us. Buy this one, they're going to come work for us. You know, the mechanical didn't work out. Security really wasn't the thing, you know, but we really said, okay, we're going to focus on, we need electrical and plumbing to do quality air conditioning work. That way we can control the product. And those things just, you know, it's a learning curve, but ultimately it's service is service. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it's just people doing different jobs. They're just doing a different type of a job, but they're still, it's homeowners, it's quality, and it's customer service. So it all went hand in hand. And it kind of was the time of the industry where everybody was adding everything else.
So y'all weren't the first, because I was thinking y'all were one of the first ones that literally said, okay, we're doing HVAC. Let's bring in electrical and plumbing.
So we were friends with a local, very large electrical company. And we were also friends with a local, very large plumbing company. And one of the success groups that we were a part of was actually planning on opening in DFW Metroplex to do all three. Or some of their subsidiaries were going to do all three. They were going to actually come against us. And we were members of their success group. And so we formed an alliance that we would just, hey, we'll refer you. Let's, you know, we've got to have a plan. But then everyone started adding their own, you know, the electrical company added air conditioning. And then, you know, We ended up, we didn't do it right then. They actually did. So the electrical company added air conditioning, so did the plumbing company. They both added air conditioning. And then about a year and a half, 2 years later, well, we added both, we just added it ourselves because now we're not referring.
Right.
And they're coming, they're coming in town, like it's like your success group is coming against you.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd go through and read the contract and say, somewhere in here it says something about non-compete, and y'all are here competing.
Well, you can have a success group that has a parent company. So
Right.
the parent company is bringing in, you're in the subsidiary group. It was shady. Honestly, it was shady.
No,
there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on I'm in any industry.
There
Every
is.
industry. It doesn't matter what you're in, there's shady stuff that happens. But it kind of pushed us to go ahead and do that, and I'm glad it did because it was a great experience.
And a lot of people don't get that. And I call it not just rolling up, but rolling out. A lot of success groups tell people, hey, buy another plumbing company. Grow your customer base. I'm like, I love the idea of buying another plumbing company, but if I buy an electrical company, if I buy an HVAC company, now the electrical company, I can reach out to them and say, look, we also do plumbing and HVAC.
Absolutely.
When I buy the HVAC company, I say, hey, we also do plumbing and electrical now. And then all my plumbing customers, I say, hey, we can do it all now.
Yes.
So the cross marketing, which you said, marketing's your deal, man, that becomes amazing.
It is huge. And there were lots of times when we would offer a special that, and everybody, this is nothing secret because it's been all over the news, but, we would offer a special that, hey, we buy an AC system, get a free hot water heater. You factor it in, you work your vendors for deals. So you're getting those water heaters at a fraction because they want the volume. Mm-hmm. They're all about volume.
And when you're that big, you can say, hey, how many fit in a truck?
Yeah.
115? We'll take them.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you park 5 trucks out back?
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's also ways to work with vendors where they'll consign. We were one of the first huge consignments with one of our vendors. Our location that served just us was bigger than most of their locations.
Wow.
But it was there and it was consigned, so we didn't have to put that money out. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ways that people can do things that used to be outside the box. Now it's probably kind of mainstream because it's more common because they've done it and proven it successful. But you definitely cross those customers. You advertise, buy an AC tune-up and get an electrical check free. Right. Those are the things that you put out there. And like I said, we're not the only ones doing it. And
it's smart.
We kind of pioneered some of it, but, hey, these guys don't have anything to do today. Well, let's have them ride along. We always were really big proponents of, if you're in this industry, then ride along with this guy to see what his job is like. So while you're out on a job, if you see something, you might be able to say, hey, one of our plumbers should come look at this. Those are things. The same with plumbing. If plumbing sees something, then they could say, you really should have one of our AC guys come out.
Right.
And then there's, every house, a lot of houses are brand new and they don't really need that much, but a lot of new houses also have issues. But you're in some older homes and they're not to code. There's issues, and you can just step right over, issues, or you can look around the house because people don't know what they don't know. And that, you can be preventing a lot of future, repairs and damages because that's a big thing. You see potential water leaks.
Yeah, I love that. And I tell a story when I'm teaching people about this. It's like a doctor walking down, he's doing his midnight rounds and he sees one of his patients' names on the door. And he goes in, and the guy's laying there, and he's got his arm in a cast and, strung up, and he's laying there in bed, and he's got monitors hooked up to him and all that. And he walks over, he says, hey, man, what's going on? He says, Doc, man, I almost didn't make it. He said, I died. He said, I died twice. He said, they resuscitated me in the ambulance. He says, yeah. He said, man, I understand. He says, what do you mean you understand? He says, well, when you came in the other day, your blood pressure was so high, we thought you were going to die there before we could get you out. He says, well, Doc, why didn't you tell me? He says, you were just there to get a cast on your arm.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, wait a minute. Yeah. And I try to tell plumbers that, look, when you walk in the house, you're the professional. And it's funny because I walked into a house, a lady who's a roofer up in Craig Ranch. Walk in, she's wanting to move a laundry room into the garage so she can turn her laundry room into another closet. She needs more room for her shoes.
Yes.
Well, I do a 360 degree. I'm like, hey, you got 2 14-year-old water heaters in your attic, your 2-story vaulted attic.
Yes.
Above your living room. I'd look at changing those first. And she's like, yeah, but I need this.
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay. That was a Thursday. Told her I'd have her a price by Monday. I get a call from her Monday and says, I should have listened to you.
Wow.
I said, what do you mean?
Yeah.
She says, we went on vacation Friday. When we got home, and it rained this weekend, and they have a swimming pool, and they live on a golf course, said when we got home Monday, we walk in, and the sheetrock from our living room is in the floor.
Yep.
It's over all the furniture. You're in plumbing.
I've
You've
been
seen
there,
it before.
seen it.
The kitchen and the living room is the sheetrock is down in the floor. You can literally look up and see all the rafters and the attic and everything. She said, I should have called you. Or I should have listened to you.
Right.
And it's like, look, I'm sorry I even said anything now. But she said, no, I should have heeded warning.
Absolutely. We would teach people to look for that. Like, say the tech is in the attic and he's looking at the water heaters and the AC system's right there, and you can see their drain pan is like full, potentially overflowing, full of sludge.
I'll tell you something.
We've seen how many of those overflow and the whole ceiling comes,
You bet.
if the ceilings come crashing in. We've seen stuff. I mean, it's crashed in on some beautiful things that are, irreplaceable.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, hey, just look around. If this is old, that's probably old too. And, you're trying to help prevent problems. Obviously, it's our business. We're going to try and fix things, but there's things that need to be fixed, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with finding those problems. It's doing the customer a service. It's a disservice if you don't say, hey, I also saw this, just like you said.
Right.
Just like you said, it's a disservice if you don't
You're
point
the
it out.
professional.
Yeah.
Just tell them. And it doesn't have to be a hard sell. No, you need these water heaters now.
Come take a look.
So it's like, hey, look, I know I'd always take pictures.
Take pictures.
Look here,
yeah.
these things are 14 years old.
And look at where they're sitting.
I don't know if they were 6-year or 8-year warranty. It's like they've lived their life.
Yeah.
You've done good. And she's like, no.
Plan a budget for this. It's not a today thing,
Right.
but
It should have been.
sooner than later. I'm just letting you know sooner than later. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what goes with planting those seeds. If it's not needed right now, but sometimes the customers can't afford it. And unfortunately, like the situation you had, it happened right then.
You bet.
But how many people call back and go, hey, you told me about this last spring, but now I've got some money
I need to
and
do
I can
this.
do it.
Right, you bet.
And so you've always got to look at that long term of taking that customer, just the big picture of taking care of the customer.
I love that. Once you expanded and started growing the other divisions, how hard was it?
It was extremely difficult. The biggest thing in the trades is there's not enough people to hire.
It's worse today.
Yeah. So I'll say, like in air conditioning, you don't have to go through the whole journeyman apprentice, that whole process. So you could take someone, you could find a waiter that was great and he's got skills and people skills, and if he's got any technical skills at all, you can teach him how to go tune-ups, and they can train and learn on the job,
right,
starting at very basic things. With plumbing and electrical, you just can't just go grab a guy and say, "Hey, come do some calls." He can be a helper. He can be an apprentice.
It's at least 2 years for a plumber.
Yes, so you've got it's a long growth process. So you can only you can't just remedy the situation as quickly as you can in air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge learning curve, and it's like the same people kind of bounce around.
Have you noticed that?
Everywhere. It's like there's a revolving door because they kind of just, I don't want to say they have owners over their head, but like you have to hire people. There definitely needs to be a push for trades. I do think with COVID and everything, and people really seeing what essential services are, it's really elevated people really looking at those. I definitely have, ran into just random people that I'm sending my son to trade school, which I do think there need to be better trade schools. There's I have a lot.
One day I want to build trade schools out here too.
Yeah. There needs to be a trade school that really a guy's ready to go in the job. It's not just about do some book stuff, but you don't even have the skills you don't have people skills. This is a people job. If you don't have pride in your work or care, or you can't look someone in the eye and have a conversation, this might not be for you unless you're going to do new construction or something like that.
Right.
There's places for those.
Then you still need people skills because you have foremen, you have superintendents, you have general contractors. That's your customer now.
Yeah.
Take great care of them.
Yeah. I feel really bad for, I see a lot of they had like the GI Bill or, military where they got so much money to go to a school. And I've seen the people that go through some of those schools and some of them are like closed and they're in trouble because they just took people's money and they didn't really teach them and they weren't hireable. They should have been, here's a hiring test. We would take people in and train them, and we would train them, and they seemed great. First day in the attic, they go, oh, I can't,
It's hot.
It's too hot.
Yeah.
I'm going to quit. So we just wasted 2 months of training. So then we started saying, okay, you're going to have a few days in the class and some ride-alongs.
Yep.
And you're the helper on the ride-along, and you're in the attic, and you're going to know the heat of the summer. And if it's not for you, then we don't waste our time. And that's you can do that, but with plumbing and electrical, you just can't. So it's that was the biggest struggle, is finding enough people. We had to limit the services that we did in plumbing. My management team wanted to just cancel plumbing altogether. I said, hey, we need our own plumbing. Let's do boutique plumbing. Let's just do, water heaters and faucets, and, let's just stick to the easy stuff that are
the pretty plumbing.
The pretty plumbing no more digging, no more whatever, because we had some people doing things that shouldn't have been doing it. And we had some damages that we had to stand behind, because we stand behind it.
Yes, ma'am.
But you got to be careful, who you're using, because there are people out there that just they're not ethical, scrupulous, sober.
I like the sober part. I like that.
All those things on the job.
I
bet we had it all.
I used to tell my plumbers, if I catch you screwing over a customer, I will help them sue you.
Yeah.
I will help them.
Yes.
And I'm a professional.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that this stands up.
Yeah, no, we would tell our staff, if you're taking advantage of a customer, whatever you're trying to sell them, they're getting it and you're paying for it.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
like
coming
that.
out of your check.
I like that.
And make people, you got to have ethic. Ethics have to be there.
And some kind of accountability.
Yes, accountability. But it's definitely, I can't think of all the. I'm sure you know all the numbers of how much there is a need in the industries.
There's a million
in the trades.
So I was on Dr. Phil a year ago.
Yeah.
1 year ago, Dr. Phil said there's 1 million unfilled trades jobs right now. I said, you've been watching my videos, haven't you?
Yes.
He said, well, I have. But he says in the next 3 years, which we're getting close to 2 years from now,
yeah,
there will be 4 to 5 million unfilled trades jobs. I saw Mike Rowe the other day. He said we're already up to 2 million unfilled trades jobs across the United States.
Yeah.
I've had large company owners like you in here. Okay, say you still own the company right now. And if I told you I've got a room down here full of plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs, they're licensed, they're good. How many of them could you have hired when you walked out?
All of them.
Well, you can't have them. I may have 5,000 down there.
Okay,
I know, but that's what I mean.
But no, I would definitely want to take your first pick. There's always spots to fill, because like we would have to curtail customers and say, sorry, I can't get to you today because I don't have enough people.
You bet.
And that's a year-round thing, and obviously if it's pipes break, if it's freezing cold, then you need more plumbers, and storms, you need more electricians, and air conditioning if it's hot, cold, whatever. It's all cyclical or seasonal or weather related, whatever you want to say. But every single day, there's not enough people to do the work. And so sometimes you overwork the staff you have, which is not the best thing.
But it's normally what happens.
And that's what happens. You've got to be able to allow those guys to have a
life.
They got to be able to have a life. Quality of life is huge.
Yes.
You have to have people want to come to work. They don't want to think, oh, I gotta go to work again. So they've got to have that culture when they're at work. But they've also got to be able to, go to the kid's graduation, or hey, Thursdays my kid has whatever, and I'm going to go to all his football games. You got to be able to schedule around that. They have to enjoy their personal life. So if they don't, they won't enjoy working. Mm-hmm. And you can always, you could always use more. You could always use more staff. And sometimes you need to replace some people you have, but that's all you have.
We almost always need to replace some people we have.
Yes.
And we know it.
Yes. There's the underperformers, or the people that are always perpetually late, the people that they don't do their paperwork. They don't collect the money. There's a litany of things that are issues that you try to help, you try to set up processes to help people that have a hard time with certain things, because they're not all robots, These are human beings out in the field, and they're all not the best at everything. Some of these guys aren't the best at filling out paperwork. Take a picture, okay? Instead of, we did workarounds for a lot of things to make their job life more enjoyable and help them be successful at their job. But it's, you need people for sure. And that's always. I mean, we would try to do alliances with some of the better trade schools that we knew that, hey, we got first chance at their top people.
Did you get many good ones out of it?
We got some, but for the most part, they came straight out of trade school and that went to our training because they passed some tests there, but they didn't have hands-on. They'd never they never actually changed
Right.
a part.
Right.
You know,
Right.
how do you
Unless it
pass
was in
a
a
trade
classroom.
school? How can a trade school pass you when you don't even know what a part looks like?
Yeah.
You don't even know the name of some parts. You know, you've never seen a capacitor while you're in trade school. Or, we did most of the air conditioning trade school
No, I
because,
get it.
because that's what we could do.
I'm sure y'all did Lindsay Cooper.
Yeah.
So I went through Lindsay Cooper. I'm a certified HVAC tech.
Yeah.
I've never done it in the field.
Yeah.
Never. Once.
And that was one of the better ones.
Oh, no, they're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they made us, not don't get me wrong, I got my HVAC certification in 12 days.
Yeah.
But I've ran some of the biggest plumbing and HVAC projects in Dallas.
Yeah.
So I understand chillers and chill water and condenser water and VAVs and all that stuff. I didn't understand the residential units, but I've had enough experience in HVAC. The state said, yeah, you with all the experience you got, you're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
12 days, got my certified HVAC tech and my EPA cert, 608 or something.
Yep. That's a test.
Yeah.
That's studying about handling Freon.
Study all day, take a test.
Yes.
So exactly what it is.
I mean, I know I had office staff pass those tests just to understand, you know, and they're not out in the field. I knew more about air conditioning, and I've delivered. Look, I've helped, I've pushed water heaters and third story attics while I'm wearing a dress. I mean, I've been in the field, but not to the level of, hey, I'm going to go change a part. Right. I could probably guess what's wrong with something by seeing, what they said was happening and then what actually ended up being done, because I was taking the call and processing the paperwork. But at the same time, there's guys coming out of trade school that had, I knew more potentially I was probably better in the field than they would have been, even though I didn't go to trade school.
Right.
And they don't teach them enough. It's not quality trade school. I mean, there are some good ones, but there's a lot of just people trying to take people's money, and what they charge for it is astronomical compared to what they get. It's not really fair. It's taking advantage of people.
Trade schools, pay attention. She's talking to you.
Absolutely. It was almost like if we had someone say they had graduated trade school, it was like, okay, well, we weren't excited to hear
Right.
when they called.
See, I want to build a trade school, but I don't want it to be, I hate to say this, don't want it to be accredited. I don't want it to be, hey, it's a full semester, it's 2 semesters, it's 2 years.
Right.
I want to bring them in for like 2 months, hands-on, change that water heater, rebuild that water heater, change the elements, check it, test it. Now do the same thing with the garbage disposal, the kitchen sink, the toilet, the this. Right. It's hands-on, nothing but I'm coming in working on stuff for 2 months.
And it needs to have customer service training.
No, that's the biggest part of it.
No.
So my ex-wife is an etiquette and protocol consultant.
Yes.
Okay? She teaches that better than anybody. I've changed a lot just from being around her. Because it's like, wait, I shouldn't say this, but I really want to.
There's a better way.
You bet.
There's a better way.
She taught me there's a filter here somewhere. It doesn't always kick in.
Yes. I would train like office staff, like when a customer calls in and,
look at the mirror.
They're hot, they're going to screaming, they're a repeat customer. There's a way to say, well, if, like say it's a customer that has to do some work, there's a better way to say, well, you might end up having to pay something, right?
Right.
Well, you might have to pay if it's not anything. Let's say, these things are covered. If it's these, you're not going to have to pay anything.
Right.
If we do find something different, then we'll have to let you know.
Absolutely.
There's just a better way to talk to customers without like lighting the match, or,
they're upset already. They're
already hot. They are hot, or they're standing in water, or, their ceiling just caved in. You have to be able to diffuse a situation. You got to be able to read a situation. You have to know the right things to say and how to say it to where, it makes you more successful, but you're probably representing the company. And that needs to be part of trade school for sure.
Okay. So something you said a while ago about technicians jump back and forth between companies. And I was at a best practice group one time, and Gus and Jimmy Dale were on stage.
Yes.
And Gus was talking, and he was talking about hiring new people. And he says, if I look at their resume or their application, it says they worked for Baker Brothers. I'm like, so why'd you leave there? He says, because believe it or not, look, I know Jimmy. He's a pretty good guy. It's a pretty good company to work for. They train people. They take care of you. So why are you leaving? Oh, well, they suck. You're probably not going to like us either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We had a lot of that. Absolutely.
So when first of all, let's go back, because a technician that does jump, we understand that. It happens.
Yes.
I've had them jump to me and had them jump away. What's the onboarding process, the training process for new employees that have experience Is it the same as one that, look, I'm coming in from commercial plumbing and I want to get into service plumbing, and I say plumbing, it can be HVAC, it doesn't matter. How do you train them different, or do you? Or do you look, you've got to go through the same onboarding. We need to know what you do.
Every person that came through our company went through an onboarding process. I mean, we would have everybody starts today. Here's a group that's starting today, and it could be office staff, it could be warehouse staff. It was everybody, and they got to learn. We had here's the company and what it's about, on the company history, what we stand for. Then they would have individual, training, and they would ride with someone. They had to learn how to do their paperwork. There's a lot. Where do you turn your paperwork in? When is it due? How do you process these things? If you have a problem, who do you call? What's expected of you? So all of those things, it doesn't matter how much experience you have or not. You have to go through all that. You've got to get your truck, and we've got to count down your parts, and you got to sign off that, you're responsible for these number of parts. And this is what happens if things are missing. Those are huge things, because sometimes no one's stealing anything. They're just not notating everything they use. Right. Sometimes people are taking things.
Sometimes they're doing side work and they don't even think about the fact that that's your materials. Yeah.
You have 9 thermostats missing off your truck, but you only sold one. 9, you can't,
You sure they were there?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So, have to go through all that, but you do try to have, if it's an experienced plumber, mostly you're going to have them ride with another experienced plumber to say, this is how we do things here. It's just processes and procedures. And you're also going to have that guy kind of check out them, I'm going to let him do the talking, and I'm going to let him do the work, and make sure he can do what he says he can do, because people can come in and say, well, I've done all this, but then they go out and it's like, oh no, this guy can't, I've had tons of that. But this guy cannot be in a house. It's dangerous. This is not, he's not even training, we can't even train him, but if he would do that, it's not, he needs to go. And other ones go, hey, we got great find. So you have to you have to vet them partially because of what they say they know and their experience. If someone's coming in and they don't really know anything, you're just teaching them. So that's the difference in the onboarding for sure.
This video is sponsored by High Level. We've partnered up with High Level because we believe this is the best all-in-one sales and marketing platform to help you grow your business. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. Take just a minute again. Tell everybody who you are, what you did, and what you're doing now.
I'm Sherry Green. I was co-founder and co-owner of A Number One Air, which has recently been sold. And now I'm just, figuring out my next steps.
So what do you think your next steps are?
I love the trade, so I'm sure I'm going to be doing something trade related. I don't really know just yet, but I know, I'm bored. And
it's easy to get that way, especially when you've been running 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, and I can't stop marketing. I can't drive down the road and see any branded vehicle and not have a marketing plan ready for them that's better than what their slogan or whatever it is. That's just in my brain.
Everybody uses these niche slogans.
Yes.
We're number one in the number two business.
Yes.
It's like, Jesus, do you know how many times a week I hear that?
Yeah, for all your blank needs, all your plumbing, cooling, for anything. That is so tired.
We specialize in anything and everything you need.
Yes, we're everything.
Wow.
You got to, how do you make yourself unique? My specialty is, how to set yourself apart, how to do something that somebody else isn't doing, how to give a promise to a customer. What do you say about you, and what does that give to the customer? And those are things I just can't shut off. I'm not sure how I'm going to utilize those, but I'm checking it out.
I love that.
Yeah.
Growing a company. It's easy to start one. Anybody can start a company tomorrow. You can eventually figure out how to make the phone ring. You better learn your numbers if you're ever going to make money. But once you start dialing things in, how hard is it to grow from a $10 million a year company to a $50 million to a $100 million?
Number one, you have to get out of your own way. You had the wherewithal and the idea and the gumption and the willpower to go start that company, and you got it to a certain point. there's a point where like you know all you know. Like, do not be afraid. Be the dumbest person in the room. Hire the best you can. Bring people in, whether it's consultants, whether it's success groups, hiring managers. That I don't know how many hats I had to delegate. Because I did all of our accounting, all of our payroll, marketing, call center manager, dispatch manager, install manager. I was pregnant and broke my water staging equipment in the warehouse and drove myself to the hospital. You got to step back and delegate. Right. It was hard. That was a hard one for me. But once I learned to delegate and I learned to hire people, and maybe they didn't do everything as well as I thought I did, some do it better, and you'll never grow unless you assemble a great team around you. And it takes that. It does take a village. It takes great management, and you really got to make sure, you find the right people and have the right culture.
Putting all that together, if you've got a group that gets you from 10 million to 50 million, is that always the same group that can get you from 50 to 100?
No, and that's a huge struggle when you're growing. And I definitely dealt with this. So there were people that were there when we were 2 million, and then they were there when we were 8, 10, 12 million. And they were maxed out with their skill set. They had only worked for me, only worked for our company. And then, we're meeting people that have worked other places and they've been to success groups, and we're bringing them in and they're surpassing, the people that were there. And there was a lot of hurt feelings of like, well, why are you hiring these people? Why am I not getting promoted? But you just don't have the skill set. And, they could have said, hey, I want to learn what she knows. I want to be her, help. But, there's a lot of that, there can be a lot of animosity as with growth, and you have to be willing to make those hard calls, and you have to be able to, say this is the most this person can do, and we really need to jump at another level. And those are tough calls sometimes.
Sometimes they're really difficult.
But you owe your responsibility to the rest of the employees that have been working so hard. We all have the same vision. We all want to get to this thing because they see, a lot of them see patterns. They see growth potential and everything. And if you're not doing that to take care of your company, you're not taking care of your company, even though it can be tough decisions.
In the beginning, did you always do your marketing, or did you hire other companies to do it for you?
In the beginning, it was Yellow Pages, so, it was back in the day. We would go down to the downtown Dallas library and get out the phone books across the country and look at ideas and take photocopies and cut back, paste, cut. I wish I still had all those. I don't have all those. I lost those and I moved. But, we kind of did our own thing. We, I went to like Mayo. People probably know Mayo from California from a long time ago. Like this is in the 90s. But I picked something up everywhere. But no, we, for a while, we listened to Yellow Page advertising. You don't really have to have anybody do that. When we really got into air conditioning and we started some podcasts and, you had a website. We've had a couple of different companies. What I've learned, and even through all the way to when we're, advertising at 80 million, it's hard to have a cookie cutter company. So you can't have, and there's a difference between marketing and advertising. Mm-hmm. Advertising is where you place your ad,
right?
How often you place it, how often they see it, how much is on TV or radio or, now Hulu, whatever. Marketing is more of like your ideas. And the person that does your advertising and does your TV buy, they're not going to have the ideas.
Right.
Like you're going to have to.
They're a good salesperson or a good buyer.
Yeah,
yes.
You're not going to have that. And the person that does your internet clicks is probably not you. A one-stop shop typically doesn't work.
That's why I love my marketing team over there. We're all here.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, I want to work for you, but I want to work from home. Okay.
Yeah,
work from home, but you ain't working for me.
You have to have collaboration.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I'm a total like let's all have a glass of wine and think outside the box and what's a fun creative idea, and
I prefer a margarita or bourbon.
A margarita or whatever,
yeah,
But after work, hey, let's go to happy hour and let's have a drink and let's think about this. And it's that group effort, and one idea spurs another idea, and you just don't get that working from home.
I love that because one of the conference I go to, a guy named Duncan McCardle speaks at. He used to be like the imagination officer for Disney.
Yes.
They would say, we just bought this land, go look at it. And his job is to look at this land and envision what it could be. And then they bring other people in. They're like, okay, look, thinking about this, think about this, think about this, look at this, look what all we've got. And then they'd have a meeting. And in this meeting, you weren't allowed to say yes, but. So it's like, look, what if we built the Spaceship Enterprise? And it could really fly.
Yeah.
And they'd come in, and you weren't allowed to say yes, but we can't do that. But it'd be like, yes, and.
Yes, and what if we also did this?
Yes.
Yes, I love that.
And the first time I heard that, I got chills. I'm like, man, this is so cool. And I love that idea.
Yeah.
But getting people together, and I coach companies now, I do training, I do all kinds of crazy stuff. I think one of the best things I do is I listen. I love the brainstorming. Like you said, let's have a margarita. Let's have a glass of wine. Let's have whatever. And just say, what if? And then never slow down and just, but what if it did this? What if it did this? What if it did this? And, that's one of the things that when a lot of companies come to me, that they're like, look, we've been told we have to do this. I do what other companies don't do.
Exactly.
And if you've been told you got to do that, it's because other people are doing it.
Yeah, and people will look at somebody else and say, well, they're successful, that's what they're doing. I'm just going to copy that. Mm-hmm. And, I'm going for an example. So we were, we're in business for 30 years. We can say, hey, we're going to give this long warranty because you expect that we're going to be
here for a while.
Yeah, hey, they've been around a long time. If they're giving me a 10-year warranty, pretty sure they're going to be here in 10 years. Yep. But then, we had a friend or, someone that had a similar business in a different town, and they just wanted to copy all of our marketing. And it's like, you just opened. Like, no one's going to believe that. If you got to have the marketing that pertains to you. And you've got to do processes and procedures that go along with that. If you're I'm trying to say how I can say this because I got to be careful with some ththings that I can say.
Absolutely.
I got a non-compete and NDA, whatever.
Yep.
So let's just say you're a company and you're great with all your people are great with customers, but they're not engineers. They don't need to go on the job where there's an engineer.
You bet.
But they do not. They need to go to grandma's house and take care of grandma. And that, I said that's what your marketing should be. Mm-hmm. Mom's tune-up. I'm going to be here. So you attract the people you want. You've got to figure out who do you want to market to, and other people will just copy what you're saying. But if you don't have the person to do that, you're setting yourself up for failure. So you've got to be unique, and you've got to play to your strengths. And just because everybody else is doing something, it might not be your strength. You've got to figure that out. Whether it's everyone has here's their flow chart of all their management, right? Here's have a chart of an org chart. Well, it might not work for your company. You might not have that many people. You might not even need some of those. You just can't do what everyone says you need to do. You've got to figure out how to adapt it to your own strengths.
What was your favorite thing about being you? Because you got to help start, really grow, and eventually sell a great company.
Yeah, obviously I enjoyed what I did, and the biggest thing though is I think of the number of people that I've personally trained, or people we've hired in the company's trained, seeing people that were working at McDonald's, or they were working, nothing against that, probably make pretty good money. Pretty good money at McDonald's right now, I think, right?
Some people eat McDonald's every day.
Yeah, no, but hey, someone, used to have a very basic job, making $10, $12 an hour, and, now they're buying a house, they bought a car, they got a house, they got married, they have a baby, now they bought a bigger house, they got more cars. Just knowing that you help facilitate, you help at least put them on a path.
Mm-hmm.
They had to do it. I'm not taking anything away from their accomplishments, but just knowing all the people that you helped give the opportunity, that just warms my heart.
I like that.
Look, teary-eyed on
that.
No,
I get it. I do. I like that.
I care about. I cared about people, for sure.
And at the end of the day, these aren't just employees; these are our family. They are working with us.
And yeah, like I say, they're not robots. I'd have years where one person can step up and be the person that takes a shift that no one else can, because they don't have kids or single. But then later they have a kid. No, they're not. Now someone else, and they're like, well, she's not doing what she used to do. Well, yeah, but everyone can't.
Life changes.
Everyone can't give like that all the time. They can when they can. So we're not going to get onto someone because, hey, now they're taking off more than they used to. I mean, if you want long-term employees, you've got to allow for life. You've got to understand that they have a life, and they need to have a life, and they'll appreciate you and they want to be there.
Tell me about the best day you ever had at work.
Jeez.
The best day, the most amazing thing that happened.
I mean, we had $1 million install day one day. That was a huge celebration.
Wow.
We installed $1 million worth of equipment in one day.
That is massive.
Obviously, you don't do that every day.
No.
But when you're doing $80 million a year, $80+ million a year, you're going to have a few of those days. But the first day that we hit an $80 million install, we had $1 million install day. We had sold $1 million.
I want to have an $80 million install day.
Yeah,
too.
that would be great. We had sold $1 million in a day multiple times.
Right.
We'd had $1 million sales days, but you have to be able to install it. Otherwise it's just half of it vanishes. So the first day we actually installed $1 million. I mean, that was amazing. It was amazing. I've had so many great days. I've just had like great days with employees, and just, we've had a lot of fun times. Christmas parties. I know some people didn't want to spend money on Christmas parties, but I was a big proponent. Some of my best days is I'm meeting the spouse, and I'm meeting the spouse of our employees, and getting able
the person behind the person,
being able to brag about their employee to their spouse, and just being there, as a support, but truly meaning what I said. Like, these are great people, and I love meeting their family. Those are some of my best times.
Tell me about the worst day you've ever had at work.
Jeez, thinking you can't pay the bills, trying to figure out what you can sell, to cover, when you have $1 million payroll, you have $1 million payroll every 2 weeks during some of the months, and you're short. It's one thing when you're short. You get a $30,000 payroll and you're short $10,000. I mean, it's just as stressful.
Right. It's
just as stressful then because you don't have access. But when you're trying to juggle money and juggle funds, I mean, there was a lot of stressful times. And I think when COVID hit, that was some very stressful. We were very lucky that that's crazy. We were lucky we lived in a place where our power went out of our building often. There was a huge transformer across the way. And so we had backup generators. We had backup phone plans in case our phones went down. We had the whole, the dial up, and it was like, switch the phones here. And now we have all these phones, and now people are sitting on old, whatever phones. But it was scary during that time frame, to know how things are going to happen, and knowing that I'm sending people into homes. I spent days just driving around trying to find masks, because we're essential. We still have to go. We need to go take care of our customers, because, like, hey, we just installed this, 3 months ago and it's broke. We can't say, sorry, not taking customers. We have, you have to do it. So I think trying to taking care of a staff, making sure people were safe. That was a scary time.
Love that. If you had to go back to the day little Sherry, the day after she graduated, she's walking out of the house the Monday after to go to her first job. And you know everything that you know right now. What would you tell Sherry? What advice would you give her?
I would say, number one, learn how to breathe. Because starting out, I panicked over a lot of things. I mean, there was one day we had 5 trucks, and all 5 trucks got wrecked in the same day. And I was a basket case.
Wow. And
it's like, you got to learn how to have perspective. And I taught perspective, for staff. Like, let's put this in perspective. Is this going to matter in 5 years? If it doesn't, don't panic about it today. Just deal with the issue at hand, work the problem, and don't panic over things. I'm pretty good in an emergency because I've had quite a few. But I think just also, like, trust your gut sometimes, and keep learning. Constantly keep learning. Don't be stagnant.
I love that. That's one thing I teach everybody.
Yes.
They always ask me, can you give me any advice? First thing I'll say is never stop learning. Never.
Yeah.
And the way I put it is, you can learn your way up out of anything.
Absolutely.
No matter what situation you're in, if you don't like it, learn your way up out of it.
Yeah, it's like you don't know what you don't know, but if you don't try to figure out what you don't know, you're never going to know, right? Mm-hmm. So you just you can get stuck.
Yes, you can.
I always had big aspirations. I never thought it would be what it is, but I'm when I was in high school, I wanted to be the first lady president. I mean, so obviously, then
There's still time.
Then I figured out what politics was, and I said, I don't want any part of that. That's too much. But just like dream big. But to get there, you also have to have a plan, and you have to envision it. You have to visualize it, and being an entrepreneur, they always say it's like jumping off the building and learning how to fly on the way down. Mm-hmm. It'd be great if you took a few flying courses before you did it, maybe.
Maybe buy a parachute.
maybe buy a parachute,
Yeah.
Maybe have a little bit of a plan. But also just don't be afraid to take the leap, but also, protect yourself and learn all you can.
Miss Sherry Green, this has been a pleasure.
Yes, it has been a pleasure with you too, Roger.